10 days that stopped conversations mid-sentence, crashed servers, and had people arguing for weeks straight. The internet was never built for hip-hop, and hip-hop did not care. You think you know these stories, you've heard the highlights, but the real stories, what happened before, what happened behind closed doors, what the headlines didn't say, that's what we're getting into today.
And the fact we're not afraid of Trump walking on eggshells, I came to stop.
And by number 1, you're going to understand exactly how unprepared the world was every single time this culture decided to move.
I apologize, often womanized, took for my child to be born.
Number 10, Kendrick Lamar's Control verse.
I'm impotent like the Pope, I'm a Muslim on poke, I'm Machiavelli's offspring,
August 2013. It's a Monday night in August 2013. Late, Funkmaster Flex is on Hot 97 and he dropped something. Not an announcement, not an album single. A guest verse, Kendrick Lamar on Big Sean's song called Control.
SMC, Kendrick, Jigga, and Nas. Eminem, Andre 3000, the rest of ya.
And within 10 minutes, half of Twitter is on fire. Here's what you need to understand going in. This was not a diss track. Technically, Kendrick got on somebody else's song, named 11 rappers by name. And Big Sean himself on his own track and said, I am trying to murder every single one of you on the mic. I want your fans to forget your name. I want to be the best, and I'm calling the shot in front of everybody. The internet didn't just react, it exploded. By morning, Kendrick had gained over 200,000 Twitter followers overnight, not from an album, not from a music video, from a guest verse on someone else's song. And here's the part nobody talks about. Control couldn't even be put on Big Sean's album Hall of Fame because the samples couldn't be cleared.
I don't smoke crack, motherfucker, I sell it.
That's why Sean dropped it to Flex instead of on the shelves. A song that changed the direction of modern rap couldn't even be purchased on iTunes. Radio stations started playing Kendrick's section of the track and cutting out Big Sean's verse entirely on Big Sean's own song.
Crack, motherfucker, I sell it. I'm dressed in all black, this is not for the fan of Elvis.
That had never happened before, not at that scale. Dozens of response records hit SoundCloud within days. Rappers who weren't even named on the track felt the pressure and jumped on the beat anyway. Phil Jackson, the Zen master, the former NBA coach, tweeted about it. Ice-T tweeted, I love how one verse woke hip-hop the hell up. And Kendrick, when asked, said, I just wanted to rap. I didn't know there would be so much speculation. He had no idea what he'd lit. And the internet burned for months. Number 9. 50 Cent versus Kanye West, Curtis versus Graduation. September 11, 2007. You've got to understand the landscape of hip-hop in 2007 to fully feel this one. 50 Cent was not just popular, he was dominant. Get Rich or Die Trying nearly went platinum in its first week. The massacre followed. In that era, you did not step to 50 Cent in any arena, not on wax, not in the streets, and definitely not in record sales. And then Kanye West moved his album Graduation from September 18th to September 11th. It tastes so sweet. The same exact release date as 50's album Curtis. To go head to head, 50 loved it. He marched onto 106 in Park and made a declaration in front of the whole culture. If Kanye outsells me, I will stop releasing solo albums. Thank you for attending this affair. Not gonna encourage your friends to come have fun here. That was the wager. That was the stake. The internet had just enough infrastructure in 2007 to carry this story everywhere. Forums, early social media, music blogs, and mainstream press. Rolling Stone put both of them on the same cover together. Stare down. Billboard tracked it like a prize fight. The hip-hop world was holding its breath. And here's the part that still hits different, even now. Kanye won.
considered an art. Throw a hoop around the bottle.
957,000 copies in week 1 against Curtis's 691,000, and that margin wasn't just a sales loss for 50. Historians and critics look back at that exact week and called it the moment gangster rap died as the dominant commercial force in American music. Kanye won with a Daft Punk sample, with reflective confessional rhymes, with no guns, no drug narratives, no street code requirement. And the culture decided you don't have to sound like the block to be the biggest thing in the room. Graduation got nominated for Album of the Year at the Grammys. 50 Cent kept dropping music, his promise notwithstanding, but his commercial momentum never fully returned. And the direction hip-hop moved after that week, it moved toward Kanye, toward emotion, toward the internal. The internet debated it for years, and some of us are still not over it. If you made it this far, you already know. You're not here for the algorithm highlights and TikTok clips. You're here for the real story. Here's what's crazy. 96% of people watching right now won't subscribe. They'll get the knowledge, then YouTube will bury us in their feed forever, which means when we drop that upcoming video, you'll never see it. Look, hip-hop radio ain't for everybody, but if you're still here, it's definitely for you. Hit subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter. Real recognize real. Number 8, the Jay-Z and Solange elevator fight. May 12th, 2014, a Monday. You opened your phone like any other day, and then the entire timeline collapsed into one subject. A video, no audio. Thanks for the days you kept me breathing when my asthma was bad. Grainy black and white surveillance footage from inside an elevator at the Standard Hotel in New York City after a Met Gala after party. In the footage, Jay-Z, Beyonce, and Beyonce's younger sister, Solange Knowles. And what you watch is Solange, dressed for the Met Gala, kicking, punching, and swinging at Jay-Z while a bodyguard tries to hold her back. The bodyguard even hits the emergency stop switch mid-fight on the 12th floor, trying to keep it private. Jay-Z doesn't swing back. He blocks. He backs against the wall, he grabs her foot at one point, and Beyonce stands in the corner, watches, doesn't physically step in, no audio. That's what made it worse, because everyone had to fill in what was being said. Hashtag what Jay said to Solange trended nationally for days. Think pieces, news segments, late night monologues. Nobody had the real story, but everybody had a theory, and the internet was not going to rest until it found one. Here's what we know. That hotel employee sold the surveillance footage to TMZ for a reported $250,000, was immediately fired. The Standard launched a full investigation, but the video was already everywhere. You can't unring that bell. The family released a joint statement that said everything by saying almost nothing. Jay and Solange each assume their share of responsibility for what has occurred. That one sentence spawned another 48 hours of debate by itself. Then Beyonce dropped a remix of Flawless 3 months later with a lyric about $1 billion on an elevator. The internet reset the clock all over again, and you want to know what Jay-Z was actually being confronted about that night? He answered that question himself 3 years later on an album. We'll get there before this countdown ends. Number 7, Meek Mill versus Drake, the ghostwriting bomb. July 2015, Picture this. It's 11:46 p.m. on a Tuesday night in July 2015. Hip-hop is quiet. And then Meek Mill, Philly's own, fresh off his album Dreams Worth More Than Money, which featured Drake on the track Rico, gets on Twitter.
We came up from nothing, we started on lists most wanted, but now it's the Forbes list. We really
Not in an interview, not with a diss record, at midnight, and he says Drake doesn't write his own raps. Not shade, not implication. A direct accusation with receipts. Meek releases a reference track, a work-in-progress version of Drake's Rico verse, recorded by a writer named Quentin Miller.
My dad is from Memphis and I am the king. I should probably just move in.
The kind of thing that's supposed to stay in a private session. And suddenly the question that had been whispered in barbershops and comment sections for years was blasted into every timeline in America. Drake said absolutely nothing for 4 days. The silence was its own statement. Hip-hop split hard. One side said Meek was telling the truth and it mattered. The other said, even if it's true, who cares? That debate is still alive.
They gon' go Tony Montana and cop them some Shaq at the Fritos, but they're from the Wave fam.
And then July 29th, Drake drops back-to-back through a SoundCloud link at 4 in the morning, like he'd been in the studio all night just cooking.
What you thought? I come through my block like on Rico.
Trigger fingers turned to Twitter fingers. That line alone ended the debate for most people. The internet erupted. Back-to-back debuted at number 21 on the Billboard Hot 100, driven by 122,000 downloads in the first week and over 4.5 million streams.
Nobody notices. I've been up for way too many days. Y'all sleep enough for me.
It went double platinum, and then Back-to-Back became the first diss track in the history of the Grammys to receive a nomination for Best Rap Performance, a song Drake wrote to defend himself against being called a non-writer.
Even gotta play these games. Run up on me, catch a fake you there.
Meek's response track, Wanna Know, was so underwhelming he deleted it from SoundCloud himself. The internet had already ruled. Whether you think Drake actually writes or not, I'll let you decide that in the comments. Number 6, Jay-Z versus Nas, Takeover versus Ether. Now here's where we go back to the foundation, because this beef happened before most of the internet existed. But when the internet caught up to this story years later, through blog culture, through early YouTube, through message boards and forums, it became the measuring stick. Every rap beef since 2001 gets held against this one, September 11th, 2001. One of the darkest days in American history, and in the middle of a nation processing unimaginable grief, Jay-Z drops the blueprint. And on it, tucked between Kanye-produced soul samples, is Takeover, a direct burial of Nas. Jay-Z doesn't hint, he doesn't veil it, he attacks. He says Nas's albums flop. He implies his peers wrote for him. He goes after his legacy, his relevance, his whole catalog. And the streets start waiting. December 2001, Funkmaster Flex, late night on Hot 97, drops another bomb. Nas's response, Ether. And if you were anywhere near hip-hop in those months, you know what Ether did to this culture. It was not just a diss track. It was a surgical takedown. Nas questioned Jay-Z's authenticity, his business, his origins, his artistry. He called him a copycat. He came at everything, and the delivery, cold, precise. No panic. Like a man who'd been waiting, getting ethered into the language permanently. That word, ethered, still gets used today to describe any rapper who gets so thoroughly dismantled on wax that there's no road back. It came from this record.
Been on my dick, nigga. You love my stuff.
And Jay-Z did respond with Super Ugly, which he publicly apologized for. Not to Nas, to his own mother. She called him after she heard it and told him that was too far. His mother checked him. This was the standard. Before social media, before streaming, before the internet could even carry the weight of what happened, this beef built the template, and we have been judging every rap confrontation against it ever since.
You know mustache having with whiskers like a rat compared to beans you whack.
Number 5, Eminem's BET Trump freestyle, The Storm.
Comes to giving a shit, you're stingy as I am. Except when it comes.
October 10th, 2017, the BET HipHop Awards airs on television, and in the middle of it, completely unannounced, there's a cut to a parking garage in Detroit, dim light, no crowd, no elaborate staging.
Grandpa, who keeps ignoring our past, historical, deplorable facts.
Just Eminem, Royce the 5'9", and a few people standing behind them like witnesses. No beat underneath, a cappella. And for 4 minutes and 34 seconds, M goes through Donald Trump, the sitting president of the United States, issue by issue, line by line, without stopping.
That'll probably cause a nuclear holocaust, and while the drama pops,
he covers the NFL protests, Puerto Rico, the Las Vegas shooting, immigration, white supremacy, gun control, Charlottesville, Colin Kaepernick. He calls Trump a kamikaze that'll probably cause a nuclear holocaust.
From his endorsement of banning support for the Klansmen, Tiki.
And at the very end, Eminem looks directly into the camera and says, any fan of mine who's a supporter of his, I'm drawing in the sand a line. You're either for or against.
And any fan of mine who's a supporter of his.
Within hours, The Storm was the #1 trending video on YouTube. 1.5 million views in the first few hours.
Yeah, sick tan. That's why he wants us to disband, because he cannot withstand.
Celebrities from every corner responded. LeBron James, Ellen DeGeneres, Colin Kaepernick all retweeted the same video on the same night, and over time it accumulated over 55 million views, making it the most viewed video in BET Network's YouTube channel history.
He says you're spitting in the face of vets who fought for us, you bastard.
But here's what gets me about this beyond the politics. Eminem had been mostly silent since the Marshall Mathers LP 2 in 2013. 4 years of near absence from relevance. And this was his return.
And he waits for shit to quiet down. He'll just gas his plane up and fly around.
Not a single, not an album rollout, a parking garage, a cappella, and he came back as the #1 trending video on the internet. He also told his own fans, people who bought his albums for years, to pick a side or lose him.
Then says he wants to lower our taxes. Then who's gonna pay for his extravagance?
That's not a rap move. That's a statement of values. Whether you agreed with the politics or not, you remember where you were when you watched that video.
Keep that shit bald, like Donald the bitch.
Number 4, Lil Wayne's The Carter, 3 sells 1 million in a week. June 2008, let me paint the picture. The music industry isn't struggling, it is actively dying. Physical sales have been in free fall. Labels are panicking quarterly. Downloads are destroying revenue, and nobody has figured out streaming yet.
Yeah, my drop sick. Yeah, my clock sick. Am I not?
In this climate, the idea of an album selling 1 million copies in a single week seems like something from a different era.
So many bitches like I'm Michael Lowry, even Gwen Stefani.
And then Lil Wayne drops The Carter 3 on June 10th, 2008. And in 7 days, it sells over 1 million copies. Here's what makes this specific moment an internet-breaking event. The album had been leaking for over a year. Tracks were circulating online long before the release date. Labels typically treat leaks as commercial death sentences. If fans already have it, why buy it? But Wayne's audience bought it anyway, over 1 million times.
But I keep that flame night. Who that wanna do that, boy? You knew that you that.
Because the music was that undeniable. Because Lollipop was everywhere. Because a Milli had already taken over every system, every party, every trunk in America. Because the loyalty to Wayne in that era ran deeper than the internet. Critics who had dismissed him had to write columns explaining why they'd been wrong. He won 4 Grammys in February 2009, and the Is Lil Wayne the GOAT debate flooded every hip-hop forum and comment section for a solid year. The internet did not have a consensus answer. It still doesn't.
Jay and Tupac, Andre 3000, where is Erica Badu at?
And here's the part that still doesn't sit right with me. By 2015, Wayne was publicly saying Cash Money owed him money, calling his contract the worst deal he ever signed, claiming he was tens of millions in debt to the label. The man who moved 1 million albums in 7 days in a market where that was supposed to be impossible ended up fighting his own label in public just to be free. Sometimes your biggest moment carries the contract that traps you. Number 3, Jay-Z's 444, The Confession That Answered Everything.
You would love, and because I fall short of what I say I'm all about.
Remember that elevator in 2014? Remember Solange kicking, Jay-Z blocking, Beyonce standing absolutely still? Remember 3 years of nobody saying what actually happened? This is the answer.
Meant to cry and die alone in these mansions or sleep with our back turned.
June 30th, 2017, Jay-Z drops 444 exclusively on Tidal with no warning. The only way to access it is through a Sprint-sponsored code, limited window, limited availability, available to a specific subscriber base.
I apologize, often womanized, took for my child to be born.
The internet immediately loses its mind trying to get in. Access codes are being posted on Reddit. People are texting them to strangers. The exclusivity alone creates a frenzy before anyone has heard a single bar. And then people hear it. And the title track, 444, is Jay-Z admitting to infidelity in his own voice to his own audience.
I suck at love, I think I need a do-over. I will be emotionally available.
The man who had said nothing publicly about what happened in that elevator, 3 years of complete silence, put the confession in an album for 38 million Tidal listeners to hear.
21st birthday, you mature faster than me. I wasn't ready.
The internet didn't just react, it held a full trial. Every song on the album got analyzed. Every lyric got cross-referenced against Beyonce's Lemonade, which had dropped a year earlier and documented the same betrayal from her side.
Ages, and I contained this, all this ratchet shit, and we more expansive.
And people started realizing this wasn't just damage control or public relations. This was a man trying to actually tell the truth about infidelity, about therapy, about generational trauma from an absent father, about what it costs to almost lose your family.
What woman's eyes took for these natural twins to believe in miracles. Took me too long for this.
About being a black billionaire who still carries wounds from being a kid in Marcy. Tidal crashed that first night. The codes ran out. People were genuinely furious they couldn't access it. And then the album slowly spread, and the discourse lasted for months.
If they ain't look at me the same, I will probably die.
Because the question wasn't just, did he cheat? The question was, what does it mean when the most powerful man in hip-hop has to say I wasn't a good husband in front of the whole world to save his marriage? If you're nodding right now, you already know what I mean. Number 2, Eminem's Killshot breaks YouTube forever.
Say you got me in a scope, but you grazed me. I say one called it in a scope and you swayzy.
Here's the setup. Eminem drops a surprise album, Kamikaze, in August 2018 with zero announcement, no rollout, no promo, and on it he takes shots at Machine Gun Kelly.
Never made a list next to no Biggie, no Jay, next to Taylor Swift. And the Iggy hole, you about
MGK responds within days with Rap Devil, a real record, a legitimate diss, something the new generation of fans rallied behind. The beef was real, and everyone who'd been writing Eminem off for years suddenly had a question.
This motherfucking shit is like Rambo when he's out of bullets, so what good is a fucking machine gun?
Can anyone actually go bar for bar with M when he's locked in? Can a 45-year-old man from Detroit still handle the streets of the internet? September 14th, 2018, 12:01 a.m. Eminem drops Killshot, no announcement, no build, dropped like a bomb while most of hip-hop was asleep.
Go back to recovery. Oh shoot, that was 3 albums ago. What do you know? Oops.
In the first 24 hours, 38.1 million views on YouTube in one day. That was the biggest 24-hour debut for a hip-hop song in the entire history of the platform, and the third biggest debut of any song across any genre on YouTube.
For the effort, but if I was 3'11", you look up to me, and for the record, you would suck a dick to fucking.
An audio-only release, no visual, no choreography, no cinematic video, just bars, and it hit bigger than most music videos by the biggest pop stars on earth. Killshot debuted at number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100.
Eating cereal or oatmeal?
What the fuck's in the bowl, milk? Wheaties or Cheerios? Cause I'm taking
The beef had actually started back in 2012 when MGK tweeted about Eminem's daughter Haley, who was 16 at the time, calling her hot. M allegedly banned him from his Shade 45 radio channel after that. 6 years of cold silence. Then Kamikaze lit the match and Killshot ended it.
He's on her neck. Wait. You just dissed me, I'm perplexed. Insult me in a line, compliment me.
MGK posted on Instagram saying M missed. The 38 million people who watched in the first 24 hours had a different opinion, and the internet decided who won before lunchtime. No vote needed. The culture saw the numbers and ruled.
Know your facts before you come at me, little goof. Luxury, oh, you broke, bitch, yeah, I had enough money.
But nothing, not the sales battle, not the diss tracks, not the Twitter midnight bombs. Nothing broke the internet like what #1 did, because #1 involved bringing a dead man back to life.
Goddamn name, now I got a cock back aim. Yeah, bitch, pop champagne to this.
#1, the Tupac hologram at Coachella.
What the fuck is up, Coachella?
15th of April, 2012. Coachella, Dr. Dre, and Snoop Dogg are headlining, and they're already giving the crowd everything. The energy is exactly what you'd expect when two legends share a stage.
Extra shit. That's what the fuck I'm talking about.
And then, in the middle of the set, the lights shift. The crowd goes quiet for a half second, and a figure appears in the center of the stage. Muscular, shirtless, tattoos visible, moving like someone who's been in the game for decades. It's Tupac Shakur,
I got a bitch named Petey, she niggerino. I got a house out in the hills for next to
who died on the 13th of September 1996, who had been gone for 16 years. The crowd loses their mind. Not figuratively. People standing at Coachella 2012 are breaking down. Some crying, some screaming, some frozen where they stand. And the hologram built by the production companies AV Concepts and Digital Domain, using an optical illusion technique called Pepper's Ghost, performed Hail Mary and two of America's Most Wanted, alongside a living, breathing Snoop Dogg, with Dre orchestrating from behind the boards. The video spread faster than almost anything that had happened on the internet before. Not just in hip-hop circles, everywhere. Technology blogs, mainstream news, international outlets. Because this wasn't just a hip-hop moment. This was a technological and philosophical question. What does it mean to resurrect someone who can't consent? What does it mean to perform alongside a dead man? What does it mean for the future of live music, of legacy, of loss? The debates were everywhere. Some people were overwhelmed with emotion, felt like they'd seen something sacred. Others were deeply uncomfortable and said so publicly. Estate conversations about who controls an artist's image after death suddenly became mainstream discussions. It cost somewhere between $100,000 and $400,000 to produce. Reports varied, but it generated coverage worth 100 times that. And here's what stays with me. Tupac's actual voice was never in that room. His actual presence was never there. But something happened at Coachella that night that made people cry, who hadn't cried for a musician since 1996. That says something about what this culture means to us. About what we lost when we lost him, and about how far the people who loved him were willing to go technologically, legally, emotionally, to feel like he was in the room one more time. Dre and Snoop gave the world something that night nobody had a category for, and the internet had no idea how to process it. It just watched and shared and watched again.